Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Montekristo podcast. Today, we have an exception where we have two guests joining us, two really amazing entrepreneurs and people. We have Mr. Scott and Mr. Len, co-founders of Heliospace. And it's a pleasure to have you today. And thank you for being here.
Thank you, Alex. We appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Amazing. So let's just go into it. So can you give us a little bit of background about you guys and then about your company? What do you do today? And then how did you kind of came together to found what you have founded?
Yeah. So our story starts probably almost 20 years ago, maybe a little bit more. Len and I both worked together at a former company called Secure 24. I was the fourth employee there. Len was like the 10th, something in that range. When we ran that business, it was a cloud managed services business that ultimately we took on a journey from founder owned. So we are very close with the founders of that business through private equity. And then ultimately we sold that business to NTT in 2018. Len and I stayed on with NTT for about 6 years after that and ran different practices within that business. So I ran their cloud managed services practice and Len ran their application practices. Um, and we got to the point, towards the end of that where it was just, we're in a big corporate machine. It was very hard to make change and do things that were different. And we were having a lot of fun traveling the world. We had employees all over the planet. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, we just couldn't do what we wanted to do there. So we started talking a little bit about it. And decided to, well, let's start something. So we came up with the idea maybe a year ago, I would say. We started talking about what we were going to do, and we're like, oh, let's go back into the managed services space, maybe in the security space, but it's very crowded. So we decided against that, and we decided to come into, say, with AI going to where it was going. We're like, okay, let's start something in that space. So fast forward to January, we formed Helios Core with the idea that we are going to help businesses adopt and scale AI.
Okay.
Um, and so that's kind of where our story began with this company. We were going down the path of heavy consulting, heavy, education, and really helping our clients. But that kind of over the last few months has pivoted a little bit to the point where we got to building a platform. And what we wanted to do is be different than everyone else. Everyone's got a platform. Everyone's got something they can go sell to the customer. That's not
Yeah.
us. We're building a platform plus services organization where we sell it's AI managed services. It's very similar to where cloud was 15 years ago. It's complex. There's many different moving pieces. And so we took the same philosophy that we built Secure 24 around to put that into the AI space and use a platform as a way to accelerate the adoption of AI. So it's kind of where we're at today. And Len, feel free to jump in, Len.
Yeah, sure. Alex, one of the other things I'd add on to that, I think, is the reason that we made that decision was because we've seen what's happening in the space and it's changing so quickly, right? There's new products coming out every day, right? They're niche, they're specialized, they're no code, low code, do it yourself. There's a million options, and I don't think that's going to change in the short term, right? There's going to be a million more. We think that building a platform gives us flexibility to adopt all the things that are changing in the last 3 or 4 months and will continue to change in the next 3 or 4 years into kind of taking a best of breed where things make sense to take something that's built and use, and gives us a flexibility and ability to customize it per customer engagement, right? So that services and platform together, I think, gives our end customer a great opportunity to take the things that are coming out that are maybe unique to a particular business use case, adopt them into a more robust AI framework that we can then deploy agents to do real business on operational work for their company. So I think it's a bit unique, and that long-term services, that long-term engagement is where frankly, we felt the most fulfillment in our previous roles is when we were able to establish those long-term customer relationships, right? And friendships over the years.
Yeah.
So building a business in AI that's going to allow for that as well, I think is pretty important to us.
Okay. Got it. That makes sense. And then how long ago did you start the company?
So we launched it in January. So we're about 5, 6 months in right now.
Okay.
But we're relatively new, but again,
Mhm.
we've been in this space for a long time. We understand the market, we understand the enterprise space, we understand the application landscapes, and we feel that all of that knowledge allows us to really
Yeah.
take AI and to be able to build it specifically for those enterprise workload use cases.
Yeah, like for example, I spent the better part of the last 20 years managing other companies' critical applications. So
Okay.
core ERPs, core databases, core apps that ran their business. And Scott ran the entire cloud infrastructure and security that supported that, right? So having that background and understanding of what companies take to operate right now in their IT stack.
Yeah.
Because if you're not just starting out and can't build it from the ground up, you've got a legacy environment you need to build AI into, right?
Yes.
So I think the last 20 years have been preparing us for the next, 5 years of taking what we know exists out there and trying to fit AI into that architecture and building on what we know and what we've built. And it sounds like not a lot of time, 4 or 5 months, but it's been, light speed, right? We've built
Yeah.
a platform, right? It's got real back-end code, leveraging technology that's out there and custom code that we've built that takes, voice or text and email and incorporate it into an operational AI agent in the background that can make tool calls and do things. So even in that short period of time, I think we've built something that's pretty special. And we're really excited to continue to bring that to the market. Our first customer that's using it right now has been giving us really positive feedback. So, it's been fairly quick 5 months.
Well, and look at where, I mean, in this 5 months, we've changed our direction multiple times and where we're going, mainly because the industry is moving so fast and we're trying to just keep up with it and make sure we can stay on top of where it's heading. But even look at last week with the Google announcements, they announced over 200 things that are new in the AI world last
Yeah.
week. So how do companies keep up with that kind of, rate of change? They need partners like us to do that. So
Got it.
that's really what our premise is we want to be that trusted partner for them.
Got it. And then was your experience and then the amount of knowledge that you kind of gather over those like last 15, 20 years helpful for you when you want to, go out and look for clients, find clients? You probably have big networks of people that you can go to or that can refer you. How was that influence? How did you kind of use that to kind of scale and then move a bit quicker than some other companies would in the matter of 5 months?
Yeah. Well, we joke about this every day because, our biggest problem is we need another customer. Regardless, we could have 10,000 customers and we'll still need another customer. It's
Yeah.
the only way that we're going to continue to grow and scale is expansion of our business. So our pipelines have been huge. We have a lot of different people that we've worked with over the years, different C-level executives at different companies that have been advising us along the way as well. As well as we have founders of the original business we were part of have been pretty instrumental in helping us kind of on that journey and things
Yeah.
to think about and things that they did as well along the way. So we have a lot of good advisors around us right now that are really kind of helping us, just navigate the complexity of the world, right? How do we go get those new clients? So sure, we've reached out to our contacts. We use that. A lot of our first customers are friendlies, right? Because we knew them, right? So they trust us already. So we can go to them and say, look, here's what we can do for your business and here's how we can add value. And especially when we say it's in AI, because every board, every executive is thinking about how do they leverage AI in this world today. So, we can show already as trusted providers to them because we've done work with them for years that we can go and do it in this space as well.
Got it. Got it. That makes sense. And then is how big is your team right now? How many employees do you guys have?
We have about 10 currently. We're pretty small. We have a lot of people around us too that we can bring in as we need it. So we've bootstrapped this business, right? So we have no external funding. It's been Len, myself, and our third founder, who's actually in Hyderabad, India, as
Okay.
part of it as well. So we've bootstrapped this thing from the ground up, and we really don't want to have to go get that funding. So it's really about how do we stretch every dollar that we have and how are we successful? So we leverage AI heavily in our environment
Mhm.
today, whether it's coding, whether it's helping us generate
Marketing,
content, whether it's building the websites.
legal advice, whatever the case may be, it's across the board, right? Well, and we want to be a use case we can use for our customers, right? So
Mhm.
to Scott's point, our development team heavily uses AI to do the development, right? When
Yeah.
Scott and I are looking to create marketing content, right? We're using it from brainstorming. We're using it for like the announcement Scott referenced around Google, right? The new video creation they announced and released is incredible, right? There's so many tools that we're leveraging to keep our team small, but use as force multipliers, because we want to be able to tell that story to our customers as well. We're using our back end framework that we've built for our inbound customer conversations, right? So that was right from the beginning. We said, we're going to put this out there and it's going to be the front face of our business. So we're trying to leverage as much of that to keep our team small and still be able to, have an outsized impact.
Yeah, and openly, the amount of money we would have spent to launch this business 2 years ago would
Yeah.
have been tremendous. I mean, even in the video content we've created, I've done most of that myself. Through different, there's different tools. Like Len said, we're using video pretty heavily. We use HeyGen, we use other things to create some avatars. But that amount of production in a world before AI would have been,
Insurmountable. And we wouldn't have the skill sets to do it, right? You'd have to hire expertise and film crews and all of those things, right? It's game changing. And that's just one facet, right?
Yeah.
The coding is another facet. The marketing is a facet of it. The just ideation, right? Having the ability to record and then iterate on ideas where we're brainstorming about what to do and what products we can bring to market, and what the best tool is for this use case is it's day in and day out where you
Got it. And then what I like to ask people that are in your position, you said you have a lean team, a small team of 10 people, but what is something that you guys look for when you want to hire new people? Because I suppose a lot of people get recommended to you, connected to you, and all that. But what is something that kind of stands out when you want to look for to add some value, as in the employee space, basically?
Yeah, I mean, look, when I started at my previous company, when they were just a startup, they took a chance on me. Like,
Okay.
they didn't know me. I didn't know anything. I had to figure it out. So I look for people much like that. We want to bring people out of college that can come and help us grow. We want to give people opportunities to go and be part of a startup journey. So for me, it's really about, do you have that entrepreneurial drive? It's big, and that doesn't come in everyone. Some people just want a job. That's okay too. We always need people that can just do development and coding, but for the most part, we're very selective, especially right now about our hires.
Okay.
That they are the right people. They have the right mentality. They see the vision of where we're going, and they want to be part of something special, because we think we're changing the world in the way that we're working right now, and
Yeah.
how we're helping clients. So we want people with that same like-ended mindset.
Yeah,
Okay.
entrepreneurial and probably not afraid to speak up, right? Like in a small team, everybody's got to be able to, look at a problem from a different angle, right? And if we're
Yeah.
not looking at it from the right angle, then someone on the team has to, right? We don't want to be the type of leadership where, it's just like, well, they said, so let's go do the thing. No, like question it, think about it from a different angle. We want to bring people on who have that mindset to really engage as well.
Yeah. And along the way, we're trying to build a great culture. We want people that want to be
Got it.
part of this. And, culture is a big thing for us. We built something special in our past life. And, we want to take that same sort of focus and mindset and bring it to this organization. So it's about growing, but it's about growing in the right way with the right people and giving opportunity and chance to those. So, we just connected with the University of Michigan. We're part of their entrepreneurial program now. And our first intern is actually starting next week. And we're
Amazing.
really excited about what that brings us, because these are people that we hope we can keep on board long term with us too.
Yeah.
They're amazingly smart. Every interview that we talked to, we're like, we could hire every one of these guys. They were that good.
Yeah.
And and it was not just the knowledge, it was the mindset. It was like, it was the ability to learn and want to drive to grow. So that's what we want. And we want to bring people that are young and hungry, and really to kind of push through this and grow with us.
Got it. That makes sense. And then let's touch a little bit about who's your target audience and who's your ideal client. Who's.
Well, we always joke about that our ideal client is anyone that wants to pay us. But
Not
ultimately,
too picky, right? In the startup phase.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
Len, go ahead, take the question.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of and again, this continues to evolve over time, Alex, because
Obvious.
we came out of a very enterprise class organization delivering services to fairly large companies, and definitely those are companies that we think we can help, right?
Okay.
So call it the mid to small enterprise type company, 2 to 5 billion, somewhere in that space. But we've also recognized that the ability to change and impact business is universal with this technology. So we've actually seen really good customer service type use cases in smaller businesses, small and medium businesses that are kind of founder run, call it 50 to 100 million or 10 to 50 employees, something like that, small space franchises as well. There's a lot of use cases for those smaller companies where, they're answering the phone all day and they may have to give very technical answers to their clientele. Right. And onboarding somebody who could really understand that and having the turnover or even finding somebody in today's environment where they can train them and keep them for a long time is a challenge. So some of the technology we've built from a voice agent perspective can be trained. It's available 24/7. It's not going to quit on you, right? Because it's just a service offering. So it's not about replacing the people that they have. It's about them being able to scale their business and free up the people that are probably better served doing something else. And so we've been surprised a little bit by that smaller, call it 10 to 50 million type revenue, smaller business as well, having good use cases for what we've built and just AI in general.
Yeah, one of our, I would say one of our clients is probably in that SMB space, but we've built some of our coolest tech for him. Len mentioned the whole voice agent, and we're kind of doubling down on this because we think it's the tip of the iceberg when it comes to AI. But I've tested all of these different voice agents out there. We've used a bunch of them in the beginning too, because we're like, hey, we want to have this. We need conversational. We want to showcase this, but they all have problems. Like they all have their issues. They're closed. You can't do things. So because of this client, we actually built a voice agent that is pretty complex. It's very natural sounding. It has a ton of opportunity for tools and different things we can ingest into this voice agent that really makes it, I feel, and again, I'm biased, of course, but it's one of the best ones that I've seen and heard. And and I think for us, you'll see us push harder into the voice agent space, not to sell a platform again, but to sell the whole end-to-end product of a voice agent. So this one can take orders, it can schedule meetings, it can do back-end scheduling they're like a rental platform. They do equipment rental. You can schedule all of that for them. It can take, customer service calls from them. And if there's a problem with it, it can explain how to use the piece of equipment that they're renting. It can do all of these different things, which is, it's pretty unique to that space, but you can apply it to any industry. So, okay, great. Now we have an order taking about, let's go to restaurant drive-throughs. It handles, a lot of noisy environments, because think about it, where construction workers are at, it's always noisy. So it's got to handle that type of thing. So we built something that we think is actually pretty special. And you'll see us push a lot harder into that space. Is kind of like, let us show you the voice. And then how do we take that and scale it into your business, do other things to automate processes and workflows and different tools in your environment. And then, you may see some things in the future here around a consumer product too with that voice agent, right? There's a lot of different opportunities that we're looking at, that we're thinking about as other ways to generate revenue for our business too.
Got it. That makes sense. And then what I usually like to ask people to come on, so let's assume that, all of a sudden you have some, magic powers that give you a magic wand. You can just snap your fingers and then solve one problem that you guys have. What would that be for you? What would that be? Having more time for yourself, having more clients? What would that thing be for you guys?
I'll answer that. I'll let Len answer it too, but because I think you're probably gonna get the same answer, which would be funny, is if I could wave a magic wand across this business, I would have an endless stream of customers that I can go build things for.
Yeah, 100%. The magic customer wand, right? I mean, we just the conversations, the at-bats, the helping companies identify and solve the problems. Like we've got the technology, we've got the know-how, we've got the industry experience. We know we can do all the things. It's really getting into connected and into the customer to help them identify and drive those solutions in their business. That would be the number one for sure. The rest of not that it's easy, because if it was, everybody would do it. But the rest of the stuff we know we can do, and we are doing, right? The front end of the business for any new entrepreneur is probably the hardest part.
Got it. So basically, it will be cracking up the market and getting as many clients as you can, right?
Yeah, just getting in front of as many people. I mean, I think as long as we can have the conversation, identify the problems that they can solve, and then help them solve it, that's where we're going to be successful, right? And I think to Scott's point earlier, it's a little bit, the AI space is really like early cloud adoption. You've got some companies that are just picking a partner and jumping in full force with that, without maybe writing into that the right policies and the right security and all the other pieces that go with it. And you've got some companies that are just maybe going no code, low code, right? And building a whole bunch of things that are never going to get scale in their business, and it's not critical to their operations, right? There's things that we think we can help companies, kind of learn from mistakes of the past of hundreds of customers that we helped through the cloud journey.
We still think education is super important for these clients, because again, back to the cloud, comparison, put your credit card in, here's a VM. Well, it's no different. I put your credit card in, here's your model. And now your data's out there. So how do you get control and governance and security around that to make sure that, they're not training on your data, they're not training models on that kind of thing. So, there's a big education piece that has to happen for our clients and pretty much anyone that's thinking about AI. You have to start with that. You have to understand what the art of possible is first.
Yeah. So we're happy to have those conversations too, because that's critical, is helping to educate, helping to ideate the end use cases too.
Got it. And then how do you guys handle marketing today? How do you kind of present yourself to the wider audience, and then kind of, how do you go about those things?
Yeah, I would say
We're working on it.
this is our biggest challenge that we're working on today. We haven't quite mastered that yet. Yeah, we just brought a CMO on that's going to help us really get ourselves together. I mean, we're pushing a lot of content out. We're doing videos, but there was really no rhyme or reason behind how we were presenting ourselves to the world. So we're trying to get that under control, a little bit more scheduled, a little more targeted around, the different industries that we may go after. We know that, let's say you're a healthcare provider. Well, the first thing, if you're trying to implement AI, you're going to find the healthcare provider that does AI, right? So it's hard to find that, us being kind of, horizontal across all the different verticals that are out there, industry verticals. It's hard to find us. So we have to be very, very selective on how we push our marketing and what we push. And we have to start verticalizing a little bit more to show, here's our healthcare vertical. Here's all the things we can do. We can help you with, medical coding. We can help you with, different things with doctor notes and patient care, and how does it ultimately impact their business is what we're trying to show them. But we have to do that across multiple verticals now, because otherwise it's hard to find a horizontal based company.
Yeah, that's too generalized of a message. And at the end of the day, we're trying to solve business problems. So being more specific to the industry vertical and saying, this problem, some of them are generic, some of them are customer service. Every industry has a customer service problem, and you can help solve that with the AI and the framework we've built. But again, you have to still relate it back to what's going on in their industry. And to Scott's point, if there's an industry vertical AI company that's only tailored their message, they're going to probably be found before us. So we need to be a little bit more intelligent and specific about how we get our message out.
Got it. And then what do you feel like is the direction that the industry is heading in, talking about AI and then how it's been kind of constantly developing and changing? What do you feel like just the direction that we're heading in now? And then are you a fan of it, or are you kind of skeptical about it?
This could go in many different directions, Alex.
Yeah,
I think the big thing we're a fan of right now is what we're seeing in the voice space, right? So there's a lot of things that are being announced by the large frontier models, and changes to interfaces, like the glasses announcement at I/O and Meta's doubling down on glasses, that I think are going to change the way that people use technology, and that people coming up in younger generations are just more in tune to having conversations with technology, right? So we're excited about that voice and that voice space growing. And that's one of the reasons we're doubling down on that. So the interface and modality of it, I think, is something that we're excited about. But I think the other thing that we're excited about is just the pace that the large frontier models are making it available to companies like us, new features and functionality to develop on in the background, which makes the ability for us to solve customers' problems easier, right? So we can then iterate on what we've built and bring those solutions to the table. So those two things I think are exciting for me. And then I think we could probably take this down the turn of, like the speed at which things are happening. And we mentioned the partnership with Michigan. We're also connected with the University of Tennessee. I think there's a lot of things that need to change in the way that we're educating ourselves, and that people are engaging in the workforce, and that governments are working. So we could go down that path too if you're interested. But I think we'll maybe stick to the first one. I'm sure Scott's got an opinion on it too.
Yeah, for me, if I had a crystal ball, well, that would be very helpful
Yeah.
because it's really hard to look into it and see where the industry is going to be in 6 months from now. I mean, the things that we're just getting exposed to, the announcements that you're making, like Claude 4, and what all the things that Google announced last week, these things have been in testing for probably 6, 8, 9 months, maybe a year. And the stuff that's going to be released in the future is already out there. These guys are working in it. So it's really hard to to look to that crystal ball and say this is what it's going to look like tomorrow, because we're only getting what we see out there right now, but there's way more. People are talking about AGI, artificial general intelligence, and that was a big buzz for a little while. Now it's ASI, super intelligence, and there's companies being spun up that are valued at billions of dollars that are just looking at that and working on it. So it's really hard for us, and we're in it every day, to say this is what it's going to look like in the future. So I can't even imagine what some of these execs of these other businesses are thinking are not immersed in it every day. They're just trying to solve their business problems right now, let alone all of this stuff is changing around them. So, we think we're excited about the future because we think there's a ton of opportunities for all of these different businesses to leverage this new technology and be that AI forward company. So.
Got it. Got it. That makes sense. And then what do you think is next for you guys? I mean, let's say until end of this year and then a couple of years ahead, what do you think? Do you have some goals in mind, or is it, where are you in terms of planning how your future is going to look like?
Yeah, it's a hard question because we don't know. I mean, like I said, we just started this business. We're trying to build a great company. Whatever happens from that happens from that. Whether that's in the future we go down a path and we actually take funding because we needed to accelerate our growth, that could
Yeah,
happen. But for us right now, it's about how do we get a customer, another customer, another customer, another customer, and how do we continue to build a great company.
got it. And then you already mentioned that culture is very, important for you guys. And then do you feel like, branding yourself to a way where you actually care about solving problems and then providing value for customers rather than just you are here to take the money and disappear? How important do you feel like is that for you guys to kind of be different than the rest and differentiate yourself?
It's the most important thing for us. One of our pillars is customer first, always, right? It's so important to have the customer feel like we are a trusted partner for them, because we will be. We don't want to just build something and leave and hope that it's successful. We want to help them roll that out, make it successful long term for their business. So that's wildly important, as is our people. Our people are just as important. So how do we make sure that our people are happy, and when our people are happy, they're making sure that our customers are happy. So they kind of
Got
go
it.
hand in hand together.
Got it. And then what do you feel like is the best strategy to kind of do that? Do you feel like people get motivated when they see you do the work and then you lead by example?
I think that's always been the way that Scott and I have led. So it's not hard for us in this business. We're in the weeds, right?
Okay.
My developers have told me many times to stop coding.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I want to help them, right? I want to help them help their product, right, that they're building, and the best way to do that is I'm a hands-on leader, right? I'm going to do what I'm asking you to do. I'm not going to tell you to do something that I would not do.
Yeah, many a times in our previous world, we would find ourselves on a late night phone call because a customer was having an issue, and taking that engagement role and trying to help the team, right? Help the
Got it.
team communicate to the customer what the current state of affairs were, or help make sure the team had the support and the resources they needed to fix the problem, right? So that's one of the things that we've always bonded over in our 20 years together, working in various roles in the other business. So naturally, that's the role we fell into here, right? Our developers and working with our marketing team and everyone. It's like we want to be involved. We want to help create content. We want to help create messaging. We want to help, drive the product forward, listen to the customer, and make sure that their voice is being heard in the mix too. So that's really the culture we have now, and we continue to build.
Got it. And then do you feel like on the long run that's the best strategy you have? And do you feel like, you kind of get the respect out of your employees and then also the customer that you work with, and then on the long run it actually pays off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the culture that we want to build, right? Is it scalable? Not always, right? I mean, you run into issues in the future where can I always be in coding or can Len always be in
Yeah.
helping, solve problems for that, bugs that are in the code or building code himself? Probably not, because as we scale the business, our most important thing is our customers and getting in front of our customers. And we have to trust our people to do,
Yeah.
to do a lot of that. But as long as we can hold on to it and we can be part of the solution and help our people solve problems for our customers, we will be.
It's funny to hear from guys that are building a business around creating, agents that will operate independently with artificial intelligence,
Yeah.
right? To say that the human element is the most important, but it is, right?
Yeah.
Like if you were to envision like using your magic wand or crystal ball scenario, 3, 5, 10 years down the road, what is the world that the children that are going through high school are going to inherit 10 years from
Yeah.
now, right? It's going to be very different. And
It is.
hopefully that some of the monotony and, you know, non-value added tasks that they would have come out 10 years ago or 20 years ago when someone was joining the workforce, hopefully those are gone. And they get to come into a role as a junior person in say a law firm, instead of taking hours and hours and hours reading tediously through paperwork. They get to work with technology that makes them better, right? And makes them more involved in solving that case, for example, right? As opposed to just highlighting where the word, you know, hammer showed up in a testimony or something,
Yeah.
right? They actually get to be involved in the thought process of the legal framework and not the drudgery, right? So the people part, the human element, is what's critical to us in the business, even though we're building a business around artificial intelligence and not having humans do all that. We think we're doing it from a space of elevation, right? And I
Got it.
think if you're building a business like that, and that's how companies are looking at adopting AI into their
Mm-hmm.
workforce and into their customers, then I think there's going to be success. If people are looking at it through the lens of, cool, I don't need people anymore. There's been some news stories recently of people taking that approach and failing miserably, because at
Yeah.
the end of the day, the technology is there to make us better, more, have more fruitful, engaging conversations with each other.
Yeah.
So
Got it.
What it's
that's
going to do
critical to it.
what it's going to do for us is, in a business like ours, in the past, we might have needed, at scale, 1,000 people, right? Probably don't need that as many anymore, right? We can do it
Yeah.
with less because because the technology is such a value add to drive more efficiencies in opportunities for those people to do things that they may not have been able to do. So back to that, what are you looking for in a person? Someone that can really understand, reason, and solve problems with the use of technology is wildly important for us.
Got it. And then we can just have one more question, then we can start to wrap it up. And what I'm interested in is that, out of, the amount of knowledge and experience you guys have, what do you feel like is the best way to kind of handle, obstacles that come on your way? You have plans, you want it to go a certain way, it doesn't, something happens, there's a problem here, there, you have to wear multiple hats and fix a lot of different things. And then how do you kind of stay level head and then manage to kind of figure it all out and continue to kind of thrive?
Yeah. Look, everything is going to be thrown at us in some form. Nothing is ever smooth, right? You're always going to have problems. You're always going to have things you have to tackle. And for me, and Len, feel free to answer this as well, but I just head on, don't let it linger. If that fire is burning, let's figure out how we put it out. If that fire is burning and there's another thing that's more important, then cool, let's go put the more important thing out and we'll come back to that fire.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we're going to always have challenges in the business, and we're going to have to wear different hats. I mean, even starting this thing, like Len and I are wearing every hat in the business with our third partner Venkat. You know, I don't know what I'm going to do today. I'm a lead sales guy. Tomorrow I'm the head marketing person. Today I'm the developer. Right? It's about we do what we have to do to solve problems, and as they come up, we try to put out the fires.
I
Got it.
think I think the big thing, Alex, that bring that maybe differentiates us from other founders is, we've been through the ringer a couple times, right? It's not, this isn't, while we're founding this business, it's based off of years of experience in managing those types of fires and everything else. And at the end of the day, it's perspective, right? We've got a different perspective. We feel we're going to be successful, right? There's nothing going to get in our way from that. But at the end of the day, every one of those fires isn't, it's not life or death, right?
Yeah.
And having that perspective, I think, is important, right? Where if you're like, yeah, oh my God, if you're going to go up and down on an emotional roller coaster, then this isn't the world for you, right? Having the perspective that, yeah, we've got to get more customers, we've got to get our messaging out, we've got to, develop the product, we've got to do all the things. And sometimes that's harder than others. But at the end of the day, it's just stepping back and being like, it's all going to be all right, regardless of what happens today, tomorrow, or, 2 years from now, everything's going to be all right. We'll figure it out. So that perspective, I think, is important.
We've seen the worst of the worst, Alex. Len and I had come from a space. We were running business critical applications for companies. A data center has a problem and goes down, and you have hundreds of
thousands of servers go down.
Like,
it's a bad day, right?
Much you can throw at us that phases us. We'll just, okay, it happened. We need to put the hat on to go talk to the customer, make sure that they understand what's going on, and overly communicate. We need to make sure that the team's in place to go and solve those problems. We need to make sure that we're handling external communications. Like, those types of things have happened so in our careers where we've seen this many times. So it doesn't necessarily phase us anymore. We know that they're going to happen. We know there's going to be problems, and we have to do everything we possibly can to mitigate, and protect ourselves. But at the end of the day, I can't, again, I don't have the crystal ball, so I can't predict, what's going to happen. So.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, I feel like, we can just wrap it up here. And then it was a pleasure to have you guys. And then I really appreciate you taking the time, because it was amazing to talk to somebody that has been through a lot of, then either on the, entrepreneurial side of things, or as an employee, and a lot of things that you guys kind of saw and experienced makes you a really like a unique blend and a match, and that, fits perfectly, at least in my eyes. So as I said, a pleasure to have you, and thank you for being here.
Appreciate it,
Thank you,
Alex. Thanks so much.
Appreciate it.